Hello and welcome to My Outer Banks Life. This week I had a chance to talk to George Becker, a more than 40-year resident here on the bank and a World War II survivor. We talked about his childhood years growing up in Germany, about being forced to serve as a member of Hitler's Junior Army, and about his subsequent capture and years in a POW camp. Here's the first part of that interview.
Now, I have to say things about the Nazis too,
That's fine.
because I lived under it.
Yeah. So talk about Germany and how did you come to this country?
Do you want me to talk about my life? I can do that.
Absolutely.
I must tell you, I was born on October the 30th, 1927. I was 5 years old. This was in Berlin, Germany, and I was 5 years old when Hitler came into power. I wore uniform, not every day, but at meetings, since I was 8 years old. This was in 1936 when they had the Olympics in Berlin. Everything was fine until then. My grandfather was a master gardener, and he had 3 gardens, and in one of the gardens in Berlin we had a little cottage. Of course, it didn't have electricity and only cold water running outside, but we were very happy, and in the summertime and in the fall we spent every afternoon there. My grandmother, on mother's side also, had a flower shop. She started it in 1900 and had it for 54 years. When I was younger, I went there on weekends and delivered flowers to people who had ordered them, and they gave me tips. My grandmother was very nice to me. I stayed overnight. She had employees and so on. She gave me a little bit of money. So I always had a little bit of money ever since I was very, very young. And went to the movies a lot. And so when I was 15 years old, we were drafted with a school into the anti-air defense in Berlin. See, they didn't have enough soldiers at the time, and they had to use young children or young kids, teenagers, to man the guns to shoot in the anti-air defense. When the Americans or the British came and dropped bombs, we had to shoot at them. The British came during the day and the Americans came at night. We lived in barracks. Sometimes they were destroyed, and we were in 2 classes, Class A and Class B. In other words, like in the morning, Class A had school and Class B could man the guns, and in the afternoon it was the opposite. So there was always one class that they could be with the guns as the anti-air defense. So I was there for about 2 years. In December 1944, I was free. I was in Berlin. Much was destroyed, but we went to theaters, we went to movies, we went to the opera. It was Christmas time, and there were very few air raids during that month because people liked, to spend a nice Christmas time in England or America, just the same as in Germany. We had the same things. I was drafted on January the 2nd in 1945 to the Western Front. My father told me to volunteer for the Navy. we didn't have a navy anymore. But he said you will be drafted to the Western Front, not to the Russian Front. In that case, I probably wouldn't even be here right now. Anyway, I became a British prisoner in the spring there, and they transported us to Belgium in cattle cars. We were about 60,000 prisoners in one camp. They had little round tents. We slept on the floor. We didn't get out of our uniforms or anything for months, but they let us have a shower once a week, and we got enough to eat, which was very nice. Anyway, I stayed there for several months, and on November the 3rd of 1945, they announced that anyone who was still 17 on October the 26th, that included me because I was born October the 30th, would be released and sent to Germany. Well, they sent us to Germany in cattle cars. They couldn't send us to cities because they were destroyed. They sent us to farmers because they had enough to eat. In the cities, they didn't have anything to eat, and we slept in barns, on the hay, or things like that. And next spring, the following spring, I made my way back to Berlin. I found out that my parents were still living. I was very happy, and I worked here and there a little bit.
And what were the circumstances that got you taken as a prisoner? By, was it the British Army?
It was, of course, the British Army. Yes, the British. Mm-hmm.
And can you go into more detail as to how that happened? How were you captured? Were you arrested?
Well, they advanced and everything, and did I shoot? Yes, I shot at one time, at 2 times, and so forth. But I didn't want to be shot myself, so I threw my rifle into a little creek and surrendered as a prisoner. And they sent us, like I said, to Belgium. And they had to protect us while we were going through Holland, the Netherlands, because Hollanders, people there, wanted to kill us. Why was that? Because the Germans destroyed some of their dams, because Holland is a very low country, and they let that water flow in there, and some of the towns were destroyed, and the Dutch wanted to kill us, so the British had to save us, and send us to Belgium. Of course, all that has changed in the years following.
Okay, just going to take a short break. Change reels.
Whatever you want to take out there, you could.